Welcome to the Sober Friends podcast. If you're looking for a place for recovery, it could be brand new, you could be old, you just have a desire to stop drinking, you have come to the right place. My name is Matt J. Over there is Steve. Steve, what's going on in this rainy day?
Not much, Matt. Good morning. Good morning out there for those who are listening. Rainy day here in Connecticut.
Yeah, rainy Memorial Day weekend. Hopefully it'll be better tomorrow. Love to cut the lawn, love to do some gardening and stuff, but we accept that we can't change it.
That's it.
Maybe. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that fraud feeling. I've had that a lot. I'm going to give you some background, and we've talked about this quite a bit. I'm on a medicine taper. I'm still on a medicine taper. I have been on venlafaxine, commonly known as Effexor, maybe 10 years or so, which is a long time. And the way the medicine works, it has a very short half-life, so not using it becomes very difficult. And I'm on the last leg, where it's the smallest dosage, but it's the biggest percentage drop. And it has really messed with my head. A lot of anxiety, and this has been just a long period of time. I made a discovery yesterday that when I'm feeling the anxiety or the bad stuff that gets kicked off because you're tapering off this medication, my mind starts to reach for why. And then it tells stories. Sort of like I have the feeling, and then I try and fill the feeling in with the words, and then I'm like, aha, that's why it is. So I have had these thoughts about work and even about podcasting around, I'm a fraud and I'm doing this as a vanity thing, and it doesn't make a difference. So I do a lot of multimedia at work. I created the role. I'm the one who came in and said, we should do this. And I started thinking about, this is just because I wanted to do it, not because it was a business need, not because it makes a difference. And I realized that is also one of the things that kept me drinking, because when I thought I had an issue with alcohol, my mind told me, no, you don't. You're overthinking this. So they're kind of tied in here. And Steve, have you ever felt this way?
Yeah, of course. Not of course. Maybe some people don't. I mean, there's a name for it. I've talked about it on this podcast before. If you go back and listen, I don't know when, because it was a regular part of how I felt and one of those reasons why I drank. So the first thing I would say is, if you're listening to this podcast and you're wondering why we're talking about feelings, it's because I drank over my feelings, plain and simple.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's why I drank. I drank basically to bury those feelings that you're talking about. And because I didn't have the emotional maturity, for whatever reason, to deal with them. So that's why we talk about these things on this podcast, because those were the reasons why we drank, and those are probably the reasons why lots of you out there have had a problem with yourselves. So I talked about it for years as I worked. I tell a story. We bought our house in 2002, and it's not, it's a nice house. We've talked about it, and I've told this story before in this podcast. And we had some friends over for dinner. They bought a really nice house in Avon, and both of these, my wife and this other woman who she worked with, were very middle class people. They bought a really, really nice house. And we were just admiring each other's houses, and we were having dinner one night, and this woman says at our dinner table, do you ever get the feeling that somebody's going to show up at your door and say, oh, wait, you don't deserve to live here? Mm-hmm. And I went, yes, I have that feeling all the time about all aspects of my life. I had never heard anybody express that same feeling to me. And I was just stunned. Like this woman felt the same way. She's not an alcoholic. To my knowledge, right? He's not an alcoholic. But, and then I started to look at myself after that, and I felt the same way at work. Like I felt at work that somehow I was fooling everybody, like that I didn't deserve what I was getting, that I somehow had frauded my way up to the positions where I were. Took me forever. And it took me into about the third or fourth iteration of our company being merged or bought, and watching all kinds of additional salespeople be brought on and my sales team enlarged. Now, I didn't run it, but me just being a piece of it. And every time that happened, I thought, this is the one I'm going to get laid off in. This is the one. And I made it through every one. And I finally sat there one day, and this was like, I was old. I was in my 50s, and went, hey, maybe I have something to offer. And this was after I got into AA and was really started doing some good work. I sat there and go, maybe I do have something to offer. And it's called imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah,
A lot of us struggle with it. We think we're a fraud. We don't think we deserve things. So, it's out there. And like I said, I always had these crappy, shitty feelings, and I drank over it.
I'm a big proponent of using AI the right way. I know a lot of people who are terrified of AA.
Yeah.
Oh, if you use it, you're going to get stupid. Well, I use it as a personal assistant. And talking about it in imposter syndrome, I have been trying to update my LinkedIn profile and my resume. And I had some time last night. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit down and do this. I have a paid ChatGPT account, and I go between Claude and ChatGPT, and I have each one challenge each other. And so I took every review that I have had and quarterly check-in at work since 2017, able to pull that off of Workday. And it's like 17 documents, pull that out, these long PDFs. And I threw them into both Claude and ChatGPT with the point of, I need you to help me extract this. Here's the type of stuff I'm interested in. And I need this to help me with a resume and a LinkedIn profile. And it taught me I'm underselling myself. When I start to think about, well, I'm not that good at that, it's pulling not just my own words, but what my managers have said about me. And it pulled out the common themes. And there was a lot of guiding. It didn't just like, here's the doc, do it for me. It was, here's the doc. Now help me self-explore. I need you to ask some questions so that we can highlight things I'm good at, but not either undersell or oversell.
Right.
And it was a great exercise in, no, you're not a fraud. As a matter of fact, you're probably not telling your story the right way. And this is what I battle with. And I do think about that losing the job thing, because we have had staff reductions every year for about 6 years. And yet I'm still here. Now, that may not continue, but I've made a lot of cuts.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that was it too. And I know you use AI a lot, and I'm not afraid of it. I just don't use it. I don't feel like I have a lot of need, although I probably would enjoy using it more, just because I have used it, and it's interesting. And what a great way to use that to sort of, again, it doesn't do anything that you couldn't do. It just makes it so much easier for you to sort of look at that and go, yeah, I do an okay job. Listen, it still happens to me. It's not like I don't still suffer from this, right? When I do a project at home, or when I do something, I always find, am I going to do this? And what happens to me too is, like, I measure myself against other people, right? Which I think we all might do.
Yes.
And I went to a technical high school for carpentry, so I do that, and I enjoy doing that, and I like doing projects. But I always measure myself against the guys. I worked for a very short time out of high school as a carpenter. Never worked. I would never call it my profession or anything. but I know I have good friends who work their whole lives as carpenters. So I compare myself to them, right? And I'm thinking, oh, these guys, or I'll need help. I'll need help with this project, right? And I feel like for some reason that makes me a fraud because I need help with this project because I just don't have that skill for the proper design or something like that. And I often say to my buddy Edson, who we talk about here all the time, is most of the times I just need another brain, maybe another set of hands, but another brain to make sure that I'm looking at something. And I think that's what AI is giving you, that next
Absolutely.
brain, right? It's giving you that bounce off. It's like in the past that would have been a human being, right? You would have a friend, a mentor, and maybe you go through some of these exercises with a mentor. Today you can do that via, if you know how to use it, and if you understand that not everything AI is going to tell you is going to be 100% accurate or good, if you understand how to use it, which I'm sure you do, it can be very helpful. And you can do it in the comfort of your own home, on your own time schedule, all those things, which in the past you couldn't. So it's just a wonderful way to evaluate ourselves, and it's constant. I'm in the middle of a project right now, and I'm just like, and next week I'm going to hopefully finish it up. I had to build some doors, like a shed door project. It's a storage area that I have, and it's like I got to build out this wall, and I got to hang these doors, and part of it frightens me. Like I'm gonna like get there, and I'm gonna find that my doors don't fit because I messed up, even though I worked on this and I drew out these plans. Like I didn't just wing it. Like I took time. I thought about it. I thought about how I wanted them to work, how they look. I drew them out. I got all my measurements, and then and we'll see how it goes. But I could still struggle with it. But in my heart of hearts, I know that I'm okay. And I know I have something to offer today, right? The other thing that again, just popped in my mind is that because of this program, because of step 4 and 5, I mean this, because of step 4 and 5, I know how to evaluate myself today. And I could take a little bit of time to evaluate myself and think, okay, just like you said, am I being too hard on myself? Because that's one of the things we do a lot of times. And that's one of the reasons why we do steps 4 and 5 with a sponsor, is because you're able to say, hey, here's something I'm struggling with. And that sponsor might say to you, that's not yours.
Yeah.
Like you don't own that. Somebody else owns that. Right? That happened to you as a child. You could do nothing, whatever it might be, right? And that's what a sponsor does, right? And again, this is what this exercise for you, it does. Like, hey, you don't own that. You're being too hard on yourself. So that's that whole mentor, sponsorship, other bouncing it off somebody else. But I also have that skill that I could do some of that self-evaluation myself today, which I couldn't do honestly and clearly, right? And that's the other thing. We really have to talk about an honest evaluation. Are you overselling yourself, right? And of course, if you're trying to get a job, everybody wants to, maybe you want to oversell your resume a little bit, right? Because you need a job or you want a job. So you want to oversell it maybe a little bit. But there is that fine line, right? That you don't want to be a fraud. You don't want to get a job because you lied on your resume that you have skills that you don't have.
Right.
So it's a fine balance. And again, we talk about these things because these are the struggles that happen within our head, and they happen within, I think, a lot of people's heads, not just alcoholics' heads. But for those of us who struggle with addiction issues, they become problematic. They become problematic because we start to just struggle with this whole thing, and like I said, question our worthiness and all that kind of stuff. And when I did that, I know that I did that. Whether it was in a job, whether it was in a relationship, that was the other place that kicked my ass all over the place. In my relationships, from my early 20s, in my relationships, up until, and I mean, again, recently, in my current marriage to my wife, I struggled with feeling that I was worthy to be in the relationship in the way I was, and I had to work with that. I had to figure that out. And certainly the fellowship and the steps have helped me do that. So that's why I love this program, is because we can have this conversation. We could talk about real world stuff. We could talk about how we navigate through life, and how do I navigate through life without getting to a point where I go, something, I don't give a shit anymore. I'm just gonna drink. I'm just gonna pick up. I'm gonna use. I'm gonna take some medication that's really not mine to take, or I'm gonna eat a gummy. See what I'm gonna start doing some of that behavior, which is where my brain goes. Right? It's where my brain goes if I let it. If I sit here without any help, if I sit here without this podcast, without going to my meetings, that's where my brain goes. Like, oh, it's not worth it. So it's an ongoing issue for me to fight those feelings, and then to realize that even though if I have those feelings, I don't have to pick up a drink about it. Right? My friend Jim Kay always says that he was told early on that you don't have to drink today if you don't want to, and you don't have to drink today even if you want to. Mm-hmm. And that to me is the crux of it. Like, I don't have to drink or use even if I feel like I want to. So I'm grateful for that today.
I don't know if you have the same issue later in the week. Today is after this podcast, I'll take my Wegovy shot. I have noticed that as the week goes on, the desire to eat the bad stuff starts to creep in. But you mentioned, I don't have to do this, I don't have to do that. It's as though I don't have that release probably through Thursday, because even if it's like, wow, an ice cream sundae would be helpful, I'm a little repelled by it. And it's like, I don't want to. I don't think I have it in me for that. And even last night we went to Dairy Queen, and even then it's like I go and instead of like the double cheeseburger, I will get the single cheeseburger. And if I get the blizzard afterwards, I get a kitty blizzard, because that's about what I could handle. I probably could eat more, but I don't have to. And sometimes it feels like when I've got that jumping out of my skin, I still would be searching for something else, but it's like I'm blocked from that too. And it's like, that thing that might make me feel good just doesn't have appeal to me, which is an awfully strange feeling. And it just made me think about that. There are these conversations that are worthwhile to talk about, straight up drinking and alcoholism and what it made us feel like and what it is now. I would say most of the recovery conversations are just real life stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
We were drinking because we needed an outlet. On the other side of this being a fraud, I remember what stopped me for the longest time was that feeling that I am being a drama queen, thinking I had a problem. You don't have a problem. Look at the people who do have a problem. You are overreacting. And that kept me for the longest time because I didn't want to be a fraud thinking I was an addict without really being one. So this went both ways. And I'm sure there are people who feel this way. I will say, if you have that feeling, you probably have a problem, because normal people don't sit there and question their drinking continuously. That is sort of like one of the alcoholism questions, I think, in the big book, not in the big book, in the schedule guide, that there are like 10 questions. And if you get like one or two that you're saying yes to, you have a problem. If you're just thinking, I might have a problem, I'm concerned about the way I'm drinking, that in itself is a sign. Because people who don't think about it at all. It's like saying I have a problem with my coffee drinking, or I have a problem having a glass of milk. People just don't think about it. They just do it. I have a problem brushing my teeth. No, they just do it. That is something thinking about. And you can, on the other side of minimizing your accomplishments, you minimize your drinking. Oh, I'm overreacting. You're not that bad. Look at the thing for me. Look at the people who drink a lot more than you.
Right.
That's a tough one, because people who have a problem tend to hang out with people who have a problem. So it's very easy. And that's a dangerous voice.
Yeah. Again, it goes back to one of the things I mentioned. It's an honest evaluation, right? And that's hard, right? And it's hard. And again, if you're alone, right? And the Big Book, it tells us it's almost impossible to do a good inventory by yourself. It tells us that. Right. That's why you need help. For most of us, to do an honest inventory. And again, that doesn't mean you're always going to say, oh, no, I don't drink that much. I'm not an alcoholic. It could be the other way. It could be that you're too hard on yourself. It could be like, oh, I'm a piece of shit and I don't deserve to be in this world. Right? I mean, it could be that serious. Trust me, it is. So it's really about evaluating ourselves in that way. And like you said, if you go to a meeting today, it's real world problems. 90% of the discussions at meetings are real world problems, and again, the reason why they're real world problems is because we drank over real world problems. And this is what I'll say. It's two things I'll say. One, we went out to a play and dinner last night, and the woman, we have a friend that goes with us, so there's three of us, and the woman who went with us is on Zepbound, just like I am. So we were talking, and I talked exactly like what you said, right? And again, this is not a medical podcast, but we're both doing that, and it does come into some of the urges that we have. And we were talking about how on Saturday I take my shot Sunday mornings, which I just thought about. I haven't taken yet. And that by Friday or Saturday, my appetite has kicked up some, right? Monday, Tuesday, I don't feel like eating at all. Wednesday, a little bit more. Like so, and it was Friday night. And here's the beauty: is like I was able to let myself eat whatever I want last night. And like you said, a lot of it doesn't appeal to me anyway. But that is a weird feeling. And here's the other thing: like I love, and I mean this, I love Diet Dr. Pepper, right? And I always have some in my fridge, and I wouldn't mind having 4 or 5 Diet Dr. Peppers a day. But I do limit myself because there's caffeine. I just don't want it, right? So I limit myself to probably, and I mean it, I limit myself to 2. And most days I don't have any. And what you were saying is like, we don't think about it. Here's the difference is like, I could limit myself to 1 or 2 Dr. Peppers. And I don't walk around my house thinking, oh, when am I going to have my next Dr. Pepper? When can I have it? Can I have it at dinner? Oh, can I wait for lunch? Like, I don't start doing that kind of stuff, which is what I did with alcohol. So if you're starting to think about, oh, maybe I have a problem, and like you said, oh, I lied to myself, oh, maybe I'm not that bad. I did the same thing. I had a brother who was way worse than me, compared myself, said, oh, I don't have a problem. For years, it kept me out there denying that I had a problem. It's the old thing. Just try quitting drinking. Just stop drinking for a month, 2 months. And the truth, and evaluate it. And if you start walking around thinking about when you could have your next drink, oh, I can't wait until, it's the old dry January. Oh, I can't wait until February 1st so I can have a drink. Then you got to start questioning, like, why is my relationship with alcohol like this, right? That's how the evaluation starts. And because you can, you may be able to moderate, again, I don't want to tell anybody, but you may be able to moderate your behavior before you go over that edge. I don't know. I feel, and I don't know if this is true or not. I feel that if I had come into the program and maybe I had tried to moderate my drinking early on, that maybe I could have, because it felt like for years I was able to do that. But once I crossed that line to where I had to drink every day or I was miserable, there was no going back, right? We have a saying that once you're a pickle, you can never be a cucumber again. And I feel that like I crossed that line, I can never go back to drinking safely again. But I feel like, and again, I don't know if this is true, it's it's past history, but I felt like if maybe in my 20s, I realized I had a problem, that maybe I could have done something. And then maybe that would have led me not to drink at all. I don't know. But it's about an honest, and this is the whole thing. It's about an honest evaluation. Really, how are you feeling about alcohol? And that's why a lot of times is some people, you don't see it that much. We had a guy come into our Friday night meeting a couple of weeks ago, and a friend brought him in, a friend of mine, and he said, the friend told me he's here to try to see if he's a real alcoholic or not. And that's one of the things you can do. You can go to an open meeting, you can sit there, you can listen. You don't have to raise your hand and say you're an alcoholic. You could listen to people and try to see if you relate to what their stories and what they're telling, to try to see if maybe you fit that profile.
Yep.
And I'll just tell you this, like, if you do that, it may be like, you may feel weird about it, and I get it. Trust me, I do. You can save yourself a lot of pain and suffering and pain for the people around you. If you're drinking because of your feelings and all of that is impacting your relationship with the people you love and your family, your work, then you owe it to yourself and to them to at least take a look at that. Because again, it was devastating for me for as long as I was out there before I found this program. There was a lot of pain and suffering before I came in here and figured out this room and did this problem. So, and there's not today. I mean, it's not all rainbows and unicorns, but it's much better.
There are no nutrients in alcohol that you need.
None.
Like a glass of beer, if you don't have it, you're not going to miss your protein count for the day.
Right.
So it's not something that you need. But if you feel like, how am I going to get through this situation without a drink, that's a sign in and of itself.
Yeah. Yeah, I talk about, I live with a woman who's not an alcoholic, and she's able to drink, and she's able to have a glass of wine, and I'm still amazed that when I watch her, because I'm an alcoholic, I watch it closely. I'm still amazed at how she can do this, and most times she never. Matter of fact, I'll tell this story. And she always hates when I talk about her. The other day, I asked her, I'm like, "You want another glass of wine?" I don't know why, but I just felt like, "Do you want another glass of wine?" And she said, "No." She goes, "Second glass will make me feel weird." Totally foreign to me, right? That thought. No, I'm going to pass it up because it's going to make me feel weird. That's why I drank my second or third or fourth glass of wine, because it made me feel weird. So, that's a person who can do it. And that's a person who, if she has an anxious day and wants to have that second glass of wine because it helps her, fine. Me, just, and for the alcoholic out there, just not available. It's not a way that I can try to deal with these feelings, right? So I have to find other ways. And for me, it's easy today, right? I mean, I'm in touch with my program. I do my stuff. I do service work. I do this podcast. I do my meetings. I do speaking commitments. I do everything I need to do. So I'm never far away from my program. And the way I have my meeting structured, and I always had them structured, is that I always like to have a meeting or do something that's related to my recovery every other day or every 3 days at the max. Like, I don't want to go 3 days without it on a regular basis. So that's the way I structure my stuff, is so that I always have something that I'm touching AA. And it just, for me, it works. Keeps me healthy, keeps me sane, We do this podcast early on a Sunday morning. It helps me set myself for the rest of the day. I mean it, right? Yep. Just like my meetings do. It helps me set myself for the rest of the day. And for me, that's the way I deal with all these different feelings of being a fraud or being too big for my own bridges, which I get. Trust me, that and that's the whole point, right? I don't only get the fraud feelings; I get the feelings like, "Oh, I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread." I get that feeling too sometimes. So I just always have to manage those type of things, because that's not a good place for me.
Now, in recovery, the win is not always confidence. The win is a lot of times saying, I recognize that this is the voice that is telling me things that's not real. I'm not giving it the final word today.
Yep.
And I'd love for you to tell me, have you ever felt this? What do you do to minimize the voice before being sober, after? Where did that voice move to? Email Matt@soberfriendspod.com. And if you like what we do, give us a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple. Steve, thank you for hashing this out today.
Glad to be here, Matt.
And we'll see everybody next week. Bye for one.